Hustle Gallery of Conversations. Welcome back here, Dr. Sunrise Smith, my good friend from high school. Now, we are excited because we're going to do a series of these weekly inspired conversations with Art and Hustle and this beautiful soul that we've reconnected after a million years.
Yes.
Right? And so I was super excited that I guessed a possible retreat that you guys were gonna drop.
It was. When you said it last week, I was like, oh, her mind is working. Her mind is working. It is. We're doing our first conference for couples, just, the Couples Connection Conference. And it's just that, it's connection for couples to reconnect themselves, but then also to connect with other couples, to learn from, to laugh with, to have fun, to build with. So many times my husband and I were talking to couples, and we'll be like doing a session with one couple, and then another week we'll do another session with another couple, and maybe the husbands or the boyfriends have something in common. And my husband and I, we look at each other, we were like, yo, if we got those two cats together, they would have a great business idea. So it's really creating a space for couples to connect, relationship wise, professionally, parenting wise, right? Learning from other parents, or connecting with couples who have kids the same age that you do, right? And what does that look like to hang out with couples who, maybe their kids are the same age, so it's easier.
What are they doing for the summer?
Huh?
I said, what are they doing for the summer?
What are they doing for the summer? The infamous mommy question. Where are your kids going this summer? Yeah, they're going to be in their bedroom.
Comes, right?
Isn't that funny though? Like how much stress we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's Couples Connection Conference. We're so excited. October 14th. Through the 16th, and it's going to be in Jersey. We're keeping it local, so couples don't have far to travel, and it'll be a nice getaway, right? Beautiful hotel. Couples can just come and relax. We'll be doing sessions with the groups, taking questions. We'll have a couple of panels. So some of our couples and couples that we know that have really, they're just, I don't want to say examples because then people feel pressure.
Yeah.
But they've been through some stuff and they've figured out some shit.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And so it won't just be my husband and I.
Yeah.
Like we're going to bring other couples in the space so that people can learn from them. And some downtime, the hotel is working on some signature drinks, things like that. So during, happy hour, couples can just go off on their own, connect with other couples, talk, maybe do some of the homework and the little things we're going to have them do over the weekend.
Yeah.
But we're excited. This is going to be huge.
It's funny. When I was editing it, I kept replaying that part. I was like, oh, I got you. I was like, I figured it out.
Yes.
But yeah, because it's beautiful, because people always want that community and to be able to have someone that you can like chat with, talk to, and relate. And since you've had this beautiful community that you've like built, it's all of them are just going to be super like ecstatic to chat and talk and connect. Yeah,
we call our community family. So anytime we like address them, emails or whatever, we say, even our couples, like we address most of our emails, hey family, because we never want people to look at us like, oh, we're this lofty couple and we're like above everyone else. No, we're family.
Yeah.
Right. And, family we help each other. We support one another. Sometimes we make mistakes, but we're always down to have each other's back.
Yeah.
And so that's our family. Our community is our family. And we want our couples to know that no matter what they're going through, they can always come back.
Yeah. And it's how you started off in church too, because church is like family also.
Oh yeah. Listen, and that's it's so funny. Before we were on the call, I was thinking to myself, this is so crazy how our conversations go, but I was really thinking to myself, how wonderful it is, right, for us to be having these conversations, right? And so much in common, but yet so different, right? And I was thinking to myself, man, like, what do we want people to get from these conversations, particularly from these inspiring conversations that you and I have, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of like, how does art and hustle really merge and combine with this, you know, my work of like being spiritually woke,
Mhm.
right? And I liken it to, you know, there's the scripture that says faith without works is dead.
Mhm.
And so you say church, and it just sparked my feeling that so many people stray away from church
Mhm.
because of like just the stuff that's
Yeah.
been propagated for centuries
Mhm.
that has absolutely nothing to do with relationship with a higher power.
Mhm.
And this opportunity that you and I have to really talk about like art and hustle, right? It's this idea of like, this is what you do. You make it through life. You make life beautiful even when you're hustling.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
And to me,
it's the art of
that's
living.
it.
Yeah.
That's inspiration, right? That's to me is being spiritually woke, an awareness of like, yo, life is an art and we're all hustling through it.
Exactly. It's hard, it's messy, and this is going to be a beautiful, inspiring space, a safe space for people to just have conversations about everything.
Yeah. Oh
You know?
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And this piece that it's like we can all coexist in the same space,
Hmm.
um, and it not be a better than a less than.
Yes. Yes.
But like it's both is needed for everything. Both of
Yeah,
them are needed.
which is exactly goes back to our first conversation, because we hadn't spoken for, close to 30 years, and we didn't realize how much of our journey was similar, and like we had so many similarities, and for us not speaking for such a long period of time, we just instantly just came into this like space of like beautiful conversation just flowed. There was just like back and forth,
Mhm.
and every time we come on these podcasts, like there's no lull of like conversation and things that we can talk about. And everything's just a safe, space to just chat.
Yeah, I think part of that too for us, just where we are in our lives, is just a space of authenticity.
Hmm.
I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the space nor the time to be inauthentic in my life, right? We've spent like what the first 20, for some people that might be watching us, they're still living an inauthentic life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's so much freedom. Remember we talked about freedom? There's so
Freedom.
much freedom in the authenticity of you being your true self,
Hmm.
right? Of you being your who, like what feels comfortable and right for
Yeah.
you and not what feels right for the rest of the world.
Yeah. And then letting go of secrets that hold us back from being authentic.
Oh,
Right.
woo,
Right. Yeah.
we struck that one like 4 or 5 times already. Woo, those secrets will
Yeah.
like, they'll keep you at warp speed. So
Yeah.
what do you want people to like from our conversations? What do you want them to get from like this wonderful marriage of art and hustle and spiritually woke?
I think it's exactly what you're saying, where we can have this space to be able to be authentically ourselves and to release those, secrets, and to be able to give people tips and tricks of what we've been through, our stories, and to hear their stories and give everybody a space to release those things that they don't know how to speak upon, and just realize that we can have these like professional people, your world, my world, and not have that judgment of like, oh, she's like too high, or she's this way, or she's that
That's
way.
right.
Like we're all the same, we're all going through something, and
Mhm.
just to be able to speak about it and give out tips and tricks to people on how to live like a better life, and how to have like, better communication, tips that you have for people, from the relationships to living in the present moments, and just to be open and have a space to talk about everything, because it's,
Yeah.
it's all about the art of living, where I realized was no longer, it's not just about art and hustle, it's about the people, it's about
Mm.
community, it's about us, it's about everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I love, every time you say that, it just resonates with me, right? The art of living.
And it's hard,
And
it's
it
fucking
is,
messy, it's hard, it's about
yeah.
shit, There's a bunch of luggages that smell that, you know.
Well, and you know what it is too? It's such a beautiful analogy, right? The art of living.
Mhm.
And this, this week, for Father's Day, I took Kyle and the kids to go see the Basquiat
Oh,
exhibit. Have
where's
you
that at?
gone?
I haven't gone. Where is it?
Oh, it's in the city, right down from
Mhm.
Jacob Javits.
Okay.
Um, you have to go.
Mhm.
When I'm
I just
telling you,
I just did a Basquiat remix for somebody too recently.
really,
Mhm.
when I'm saying you must go.
Mm.
Like, number one, I was amazed at how much he created in his 28 years of life. I believe it was
Wow.
28 years. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he was born in 60, I think, and passed away in 98.
Mhm.
How much he created, right? So I'm connecting it to what you're saying, the art of living.
Yeah.
Like, there was some of his art that you had to stand there and really look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had to look at it to kind of imagine and interpret, like, what was he trying to say?
Mhm.
Because it wasn't perfectly constructed.
Yeah.
It didn't have words to make it easy for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
It required you to be present,
Yeah.
right? It required you to like stop the chatter in your brain,
Mhm.
and like hone in and pay attention and feel.
Yeah.
A lot of his work for me, I felt so much like, they have this part, I don't want to go into, I messed it up for you, but they have this part of the exhibit where it's like they um replicate some of the spaces where he worked.
Oh, wow. So you could probably feel his like
Yeah,
all of it.
and in the spaces, I believe, were some of his original like items, things that belonged to him.
Oh, wow.
And you go and there's a sense of like, this is what life is like.
Mhm.
It doesn't have perfect lines. The
Mhm.
colors aren't filled in exactly.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of when you said that you wanted to, was it your sister?
Or was it the crayon story? I have this
It was a
crayon
crayon
story. The
story.
crayon story. Yeah.
It reminded me of that, where it
Mhm.
was like the beauty was actually in the broken crayons. The beauty was in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mess. The beauty
Yeah.
was in the stroke of the brush that went off of the canvas and not
Mhm.
staying on.
Yes.
And, it's funny because now that I'm thinking about it, that was our conversations, right? Like, I
Mhm.
had to be present, which is
Yeah.
what I help people do.
Mhm.
Get present in the moment.
Mhm.
What does it mean to be spiritually aware? Like,
Yeah.
just,
Mhm.
and then the art of living,
Mhm.
right? That there was this here, I had to be present to really experience
Mhm.
what life was
Yeah.
for
And life
him.
doesn't have to be perfect.
No.
And it's hard for us because we come from like I come from this world where you have to make it, you have to hit all the goals, you have to
Oh yeah.
do
Well, we
everything
both do,
nice,
immigrant
right?
family. Absolutely, right?
Yeah, like
That's like
you
the
have to succeed, you got to be perfect child, be a good girl, listen to your parents, all of it. And it's like it's all encompassing. It's too much.
that right there. I think we should, in the future, let's write that down.
Yeah.
We have to do a conversation around the immigrant experience,
Oh, that's huge.
or like, for us particularly, I would say like we're like on the cusp of Gen X and millennials. We're like
Yeah.
younger Gen Xers.
Yeah.
What that experience was like living in both of, because I feel like we're torn. Like, when I
We
look at
are.
both of us,
Yes.
we were torn between the part of Gen X that was like, you hustle, you do it right, you don't get it wrong, your parents worked this hard to get you what you had to get. And then there's that kind of like millennial side that's like, no, you should explore the things that interest you, the
Yeah.
life that you want for yourself.
Yeah, and that's hard because like that was like my free spirited artistic side that wanted to do all those things, but like I couldn't. I contained myself into this box of like, no, I have to succeed. I have to, the American dream. I have to figure it out. I have to get a good career. I got to make lots of money. I have to do all of these things.
Mhm.
And I was having a conversation with Schiavo, and I don't think he fully understood the immigrant family, because he was always like, be free, just
Mhm.
just do whatever makes you happy and this and that. And so I had to re-explain to him, like, coming from an immigrant family, like, happiness is not part of the equation. You know what I mean? Like, it's make money,
Yeah.
honor your family.
Mhm.
Like, those are like, keep everything in
Well,
your family.
and the immigrant family of color, because let's
Yeah,
recognize there is a difference.
huge.
There's a huge difference
Yeah.
between immigrant families of color, which
Yep.
means everyone that's non-white
Yep.
immigrant,
Hmm.
and what that experience, what that American dream then looks like for us, right?
Yeah.
Because you put on top of just dream, but then you put the barriers that the system put in place to ensure
Hmm.
that people of color, whether they were born here
Hmm.
or whether they are coming from another space here, um, just those particular barriers that were like, okay, no, you can go, but you can go, but only this far.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's interesting you bring that up, because that's also the part of the conversation I had where, all of us were steered to CI,
Mm.
from all the real estate, like,
Oh,
agents,
yeah.
like, because he was in real estate, so he knew. They told him, no, you got to steer. I was like, what, you steering us like animals? Like, that's steering
Oh
to
yeah,
me
that's what
is
they
like
did.
a herd of cows, like steering animals and
Oh yeah, they wanted us
horses.
all to be in the same space,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And not just in the same space, but almost like a control factor,
yeah.
right? You were
Mhm.
going to be in the same space, and we were also going to limit the resources that you had
Yeah,
within this space.
yeah.
So it's funny because I can't even remember the article. I read it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I probably talked about this on one of our other podcasts.
Mhm.
There, it was still way into the 70s and 80s. There were still Long Island towns that had
Mhm.
laws on the books
Oh.
that if you sold your house to a Black person, you could get in trouble.
Really?
Way into the
70s
80s.
and
Yes.
80s?
Yeah. And
Really?
I'm gonna go and see if I can find it. It was an article actually about Mitt Romney's father,
Uh-huh.
who at the time, oh, do I want to say he was the housing, maybe he worked in the whatever president at the time, he
Mhm.
worked as their under the housing administration, and he
Oh.
was the one that uncovered it and was like trying to expose it. But there were towns in Long Island way into the 70s and 80s that whether they were practicing it or not, they had those laws on the books.
Oh, yeah, because Schiavo worked at two real estate um companies, and they both tell him, for no reason at all, do
Mhm,
not put these colored people in certain areas. And if they do, they're gonna come and burn my,
mhm.
place down. And to me, like, that's how my conversations expanded, because originally it was just like, oh, I want to be in the space of art, blah blah blah. But then, like, talking to him more, I'm like, no, like, now it's like a bigger thing of like, I want to give voices to all the people in CI, all the children who were steered to CI.
Yeah.
What happened to them, and all the giants that came about, from, you got your doctorate, another person could be like a speaker for this, another person's like
Yeah.
successful in like construction. There's so many people of those children who are
Yes.
hugely successful to me, and I
Yeah.
love hearing their stories.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is too, which is why our conversations are just so beautiful. I think they're layered and textured in the sense, and I said it before, we have so much in common, yet still so different.
Hmm.
And like my awareness of just what you bring to
Hmm.
the world, um, is what has you having these conversations with people, right?
Hmm.
That awareness that like, look at all of these diverse experiences under these circumstances that we weren't even aware of
Yeah, yeah.
at the
And like
time.
it's yeah, and then it's interesting because, like, you know how, like, before when we first spoke, like, you were kind of like hesitant of like your childhood and CI
Oh
and
yeah.
like some of those bad memories, right?
Oh yeah.
And me, I'm like, listen, let's go in it. Let's dive deep.
Yeah,
Let's
let's not shy away from them.
yeah, like, let's bring it up. Like, how was CI for you and how your experience was? And you're like, no, it was hard for me, like, in the
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
It was, and it was. and I think that's part of my journey with being so spiritually woke. It's that I no longer, and you helped me with that in our conversation too, because I was still holding CI like very like,
Yeah.
"Rah."
Yeah, I can see
um,
from the first, like, from our first podcast when you came on, you're like, I don't know how this conversation's gonna go. I
and
don't know.
I didn't want to jack anything up, right? I didn't want to
Yeah,
like come and like throw these bombs of crap. And you were having all these wonderful conversations about this town or our community, and it wasn't necessarily about the people. It was the structures within the town
yeah, but
that,
like, I'm completely okay with, like, however your experience is, this is
yeah.
your experience, and I value and grateful for you speaking of however it was,
Oh yeah.
you
Oh
know?
yeah. It was definitely interesting, but it has shaped my awareness around being spiritually woke because I no longer despise the experience.
Yeah, yeah.
I recognize that there's a voice and a conversation and a way that I can speak to certain things
Mhm.
because of those experiences, right?
Yeah,
That be
yeah.
the right. So even when I try to tell people, I don't know where they fall anymore. They might still be in the top 10, but it's for me, it's so hard to believe that Suffolk County
Mhm,
was or is, I can't remember, so I don't want to say anything out of turn, was
mhm.
in the top 10 of most segregated and racist counties in the country,
Oh, really?
right?
Probably, right?
Right? But you think of it, you think, oh, New York, right? You think, oh, New York,
Yeah,
right? How
yeah,
could that be?
yeah.
But then you learn, right, of, oh wow, like to your point, Schiavo kind of like shed some light on things
Yeah, huge.
that were so apparent because he was in the middle of it,
Mhm.
but we were only experiencing it, right? We weren't
Yeah.
aware of what we were experiencing, but we were experiencing it.
Yeah, and I love that when I speak to him about this, like, to me, I joke about it. He's like, so, like, I'm a white, male and this, and I'm, really? You're white? So, like, we joke, but I love that, he's a white, let's put it what it is. He's a white male who's,
Yeah.
very liberal in his views, he has his opinions about everything, and he's not shy to speak about it. And I love
Yeah.
that. So I can put light to it and be able to,
Mhm.
show it to people. But like, it's interesting when we talk about like being immigrant family and then being segregated, really we were segregated to being in CI. And
Mhm.
so, and then you had this like juxtaposition where my parents had a restaurant in Ronkonkoma. Now
Yeah.
that's all white. So now I'm in the school with all mixed, but then I work at the parents' restaurant where it's all white. And I was wondering, I'm like,
Mm.
I would drive by their school for like a delivery and stuff, and I look at their school, I'm like, wow, their school's really nice.
Yeah.
Like, how come this school is so big? And I see their uniforms, and I'm like, wow, yeah, nice uniforms. I'm like, and then my brother, he actually he went to East Islip.
Mm.
Go
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
that's all white, right? So I go
Mhm.
there, and I'm like, wow, there's a difference of like where the money's going. But I never really realized it as I get older, and I was just like, this is crazy.
Oh
This is
yeah.
really crazy. Like, why is that area all white? And how come ours is all mixed? And
Mm.
now you go back to CI, it's all Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just so crazy, right? How our experiences have shaped us.
Hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure you've made some decisions in your life based on those experiences that you had.
Hmm.
I know I made experiences in my life based on those experiences that I had
Hmm.
growing up. And now we've like come full circle
Yep.
to here in this moment to be able to be aware of like look at all of these connected dots
Hmm.
that brought us here. So we can't totally despise
Yeah,
those
totally not.
dots because
There were
they were
lessons.
disconnected. They were lessons.
Yeah, there were
They were
lessons.
disconnected by themselves, but
Hmm.
when you flip them all together, they're the chain link that has both of us seated here as
Yeah,
the women.
and which is beautiful because like I totally appreciate the all of those lessons because it's made me the person I am.
Mhm.
Even even all the shit and the hardships and everything else from my childhood. I was listening to something today, another podcast with I wrote it down. I think it's like Lewis Howes and Alex something.
Mhm.
And he was trying to look at his past and his relationship with his father. And then he was like trying to realize like it's like basically like what are the lessons? What are the gifts can I see and get from all of those hardships that I went through? Who am I from it? You know, how am I? Instead of like saying, oh, that was bad. This is, you know, that was horrible. Well, what did I get out of it? And who can
Yeah.
I be from it?
Mm. Yeah.
You know, and those are those lessons that I will be able to tell by telling my abuse and mental abuse and all of it. Who am I from it?
Yeah.
And really, I'm a beautiful, empathetic, compassionate person I am today because of all of those hardships and because of all the beautiful mix of people that I was around. And,
Yeah.
you know, so I'm able to sit
Yeah.
where
And
I am.
and it's so funny because you say, when you were describing going to, East Islip or looking at Ronkonkoma School and then looking at our high school,
Mhm.
ironically enough, having worked in education for X number of years, I would pick Central Islip High School for many of the kids that live in underserved or underrepresented, underserved communities, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's so funny, even the lens, right? So as much as there were these things about Central Islip that we could like we can kind of point to,
Mhm.
when I compare it to like my cousin, because the majority of my family, we're from Brooklyn. So
Mhm.
they all were in Brooklyn, went to high school in Brooklyn. They would come out to where we lived and they're like, this, y'all living the good life. Y'all are the Cosbys, right? That's what
Yeah.
everybody called my
Yeah.
parents growing
Yeah.
up, right? Everybody said that, you guys are the Cosbys. Little did they know we weren't necessarily having a Cosby experience. But I mean, in terms of my father being a professional, yes. But I'm
Yeah.
in terms of like the
Home life.
freedom, yeah, the
Yeah.
freedom that we had, that the Cosbys had to be their full Black selves in
Yeah.
Brooklyn,
Yeah.
wasn't
No.
necessarily what we
No.
were experiencing. But the comparison, right? Central Islip gave us a good education
Yes. Yeah.
compared to probably other
Mhm.
young women who came from immigrant families that maybe lived in Brooklyn or Queens
Yeah.
or Staten Island or other places.
Yeah.
It would like, you're like, okay, it just all, it's all a dot,
Yeah. And
all a
like
dot.
it's so true because like school was my savior. School was my escape. So thank
I
God for
remember.
school. Thank God for the teachers that was there.
Thank
And
God for art.
thank God for art. Art saved me. And that was my voice. Art was my voice. And thank God there were some people who saw my talents and nurtured it and supported it. And even to the space of like someone made me the editor of the yearbook, which I never went for. Like someone suggested me. And I was like, wow, really? Like someone
Yeah.
suggested me to be the yearbook editor, co-yearbook editor in junior year. So that really shaped also for me to be a person to be able to speak up and like, oh, I can lead this. And he was like, so when I became a senior, he's like, okay, you can just be the editor. And I was like, no, but I can't do this by myself. I need somebody else. He's like, no,
Yeah.
Linda, you can do this yourself now. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. So like I appreciate all of those teachers who believed in me because at that
Yeah.
point I'm still in my like my I don't know what you call it, depression, and I don't see anything. Like I'm just in survival mode of just getting through and doing the best I can. But they saw that best in me and was like, no, you can do it.
Mm. Yeah. I think for me, that was like the music department because I was really into, for me, it was music.
Hmm.
And it's funny, I'm just laughing because my husband, he grew up in a town here in New Jersey, urban community here in New Jersey.
Hmm.
And he laughs at me, right? I'm in my mind, I'm just still thinking about what you said about West Islip and Ronkonkoma, because to my
Yeah.
husband, he's like, girl, you grew up in the suburbs. He's like,
Oh,
you had a music department. He said, you had an athletic department. He's like, we didn't have those things at my school, right? It was
oh no.
no, but that's the thing in education,
Hmm.
a lot of urban schools, they're funding, like they don't have those great programs,
Oh yeah,
right?
that's true because even right now, even in Staten Island, my daughter's in a school and I thought her school is good, right? So I was like, don't you have sports? Like, guys need to join some sports. And they're like, no, all we have is track. That's it. Your option is track, or the other ones you have to pay for. I'm like, wait, I was trying to think of when I was in junior high. I'm like, I joined volleyball. There were other sports. There was a whole bunch of
Oh,
sports.
listen, there were tons of sports.
Yeah.
Yes, I was on the track team.
So she's like, no, there's no sports besides track.
Right. So if we bring this whole conversation full circle, right? The art of hustles, art and hustle, spiritually woke, the art of living.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it sounds like what we're both finding from these conversations is gratitude,
Yeah.
right? Because for me, it's gratitude. It's a reminder to be grateful that even though I had some traumatic experiences growing up in Central Islip, and I watched my family members have traumatic experiences,
Mm-hmm.
I still wouldn't be who I am today, right?
Yeah.
I still, because the opportunities that I did have,
Mm-hmm.
whether I had the same amount of opportunities that East Islip, West Islip, Ronkonkoma had,
Mm-hmm.
I had more opportunities than some of my peers and my friends
Yeah.
that I went to school, that I ended up going to college with, who were from Brooklyn, Queens,
Mhm.
Philly,
Mhm.
DC, other major cities from around the country.
Yeah.
And so this for me, the conversation, what you did for me in the first conversation was you gave me the freedom to
Mhm.
acknowledge what that experience was,
Mhm.
but I also was able to acknowledge it and have gratitude for it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's beautiful. I gave you a space to open up and then just see it, right? That's
Yeah.
that's funny, like, which is what you say, like, that's how I have come to where I am today, because as I do these podcasts and edit them, then I see it,
Mm.
right?
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And you see, it is
Beautiful.
because you're seeing, if I get all technical and stuff about my spiritually woke stuff, you're
Oh, I
seeing,
love it. Give me all your technical work.
yeah, you're seeing from multiple eyes,
Yeah.
right? We assume that the eyes that we see with are just our carnal eyes, right? But I always tell people, just if you close your eyes, you can still see,
Yep.
right? You might not be able to see what's in front of you, but
Mhm.
if you were to close your eyes and visualize what the room looked like, you could see aspects of the room and your eyes would be closed.
Yep.
And many times when you say you're able to see it, you're not only seeing with here, but you're also seeing with your heart,
Mhm.
you're seeing with your spirit, you're seeing with a new lens that may not be with your physical eyes, but
Mhm.
you're seeing with a soul, the part of you
Yeah.
that sees deeper than what's
Mhm.
on the outside,
Mhm.
right? Even as I watch you do people's interviews, I watch you see people in a different way, right? Because you become enlightened, like, oh
Mhm.
wow, like,
Mhm.
look at that.
Yeah.
We crack up all the time. We're like, we were friends this whole time,
Yeah.
and there were still aspects of each other that we didn't know.
Of course, like, even our whole conversation where I watch it, I'm like, wow. Or anybody else that I have a conversation, because you don't realize these things. That's why I love having these recorded conversations now. One, I'm getting old. Two, I have terrible memory. Like, and like the crayon story where, like, I can't get stuck on being perfect.
Mm,
Like, I can't get stuck on that, because then the creativity won't flow, and I'll get stuck on trying to make a beautiful colored crayon, you know, book, and make it look beautiful and perfect. And that's the problem within my immigrant family, of what being in this family who was like so male dominated, that you
yeah.
had to be the perfect good girl,
Mm,
and so I had for me to be the artist that I am today, I had to just throw all of that and a lot of, like, unlearn a lot of those things that I had, you know, downloaded into my brain, and just be like, no, just the chaos of it, the collaging, the ripping up of
yeah.
things and putting it all back together, because life is all a mosaic of everything. And like in Japanese, like, they don't just throw out bowls that are just broken. They glue it back together, and they actually, I think they put like gold leaf, and then they make it all beautiful again. And the cracks are part of the beauty of it.
Mm. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Because I think of when you, every time you said the word create, I think of something new.
Hmm.
And it's hard to create something when your mind is fixated and focused on a previous vision that you've had and you're trying to duplicate it or replicate it.
Yeah.
And you know, that to me, you can't be creative if you have like a structure or it has to be a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because how can you create,
Hmm.
right? Because the whole idea of creation is to make something new,
Hmm.
right? You can't create something new
Hmm.
if what you're trying to do is based on
The old.
the old.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those bowls are probably even more valuable than they were before because
Hmm.
the original bowls were probably in a set,
Hmm.
and
Like
now that,
everybody else.
like everybody else,
Like everybody else.
and now this cracked bowl has its own unique expression, but still possibly the same use or even better.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. And that just triggered something in me where, like, growing up, I think since I lived in such like an isolated world and was trying to get out of it and trying to create my own path, I have this dichotomy where, I have to. I'm always seeking this like father figure or the man in my life, the savior to save me and all of this stuff. And I was talking to somebody else yesterday about fixing those masculine parts of myself, really, because I can't fix it from somebody else. It's the masculine parts of me that I had to become and structure and like doing like the full force of like, okay, I have to get it done, I have to do these things. Like, it's fixing all of those things, the masculine and the feminine parts of myself. And when you said create, like, really I need to take apart that fairy tale I have in my head of who this man is supposed to
Oh,
be in my life, right? Because I always want him to act a certain way. And so when he doesn't act that way, we're going back to
oh,
the relationships, right? Because we have to go full circle and do all the side steps. But like the relationship, I'm always having this bubble where I always feel like the man has to fit into this bubble of being the savior to say the right things. And if you don't say the right things, you're doing it wrong. And then I feel like, not loved and attacked and all of that. So really I have to create a new vision of who this man is.
you know what, too? So crazy. I was listening to a YouTube video a couple days ago. It's so crazy that you said this. The person said in the video, we marry our we marry our therapist.
Hmm.
So it's funny you keep saying I have this vision of this person. And
Hmm.
in so many words, the speaker was saying that we want the person that we're with to be responsible for our healing.
Yeah. Yep.
And what we keep doing is we're looking for someone to heal us as
Yeah.
opposed to us healing
Yep.
ourselves
Yep.
and then being able to be with someone
Hmm. Just for to
just
love
for,
them, just to
yes,
love them for whoever
yes,
they are. Yeah.
yes.
Don't
So
we have
I
this
would,
all the time? You always like, not just something similar to something else.
yes, yes. And
You have it. Yeah.
it's crazy because, you know, I keep hearing you say, I have to change this image of this person when it's not really the image of the person. It's an opportunity for you to say, okay, what unhealed part of me is
Yeah.
seeking out
Mm-hmm.
that individual
Mm-hmm.
to create the fairy tale? Like, what is it about the fairy tale that heals the part of me that
Mm-hmm.
needs healing? And that's where I start. I got to heal
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, oh
Yeah.
man, that's so
Right.
good.
Isn't that crazy? So like there's a so the world is funny. People come in to step into your world for lessons, and one of them came through my Instagram feed, and one of them was this lady I found in France. So she originally lived in New York. She was in
Mhm.
the financial district. I think she's like French Russian, and she married her husband, eventually moved to France. And so her one of her videos went through my feed, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. So she ended up to be a coach, And I sent her a message and said, "Oh my God, I loved your videos, so inspiring. I'd love to have you on the podcast." And she
Mhm.
speaks about all of these things. She's like disrupts the, the thinking in your mind and unpacking all of
Yeah.
it. So her last, she's decided to do 100 days of like speaking upon like anything that goes through her head. So it's like a diary. So 100-day
Oh,
journal,
that's
right?
awesome.
100-day journal, or just doing like quick little videos. It could be like 8 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So her last one was about fathers, and another one was about all your relationships are a reflection of you,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And then like the father one was like how it's like it disrupts also all of your future relationships and this and that, and
Mm.
how she's healing her masculine parts of herself and her mother too, and her feminine parts. And I was like, yeah, like I always had this like thought where I want someone to save me because I was never able to save myself when
Mm.
I needed to be saved. But then again, like all of that's really a lie because eventually I was able to stop it.
Yeah.
So it's like I think it's the length of time that the abuse happened. So it seems so much bigger than, yeah, I did all the things that I need, all the masculine things I need from somebody else. I can do all of those things for myself. And I have done all those things for myself. I think
Mm.
it's just that part of me being tired.
Yeah. 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 Something to think about too, Linda, would be to show grace to the little girl who may not have had the tools, right? Because we have a tendency as adults to judge our behaviors as youth, but we forget we're living from a perspective now that has been years and years and years and years and years of information.
Mhm,
And we treat the child in us as if that child should have known.
mhm,
And I think we talked about this last week, that's how I freed myself from what happened to me with the orthodontist.
mm,
Like,
mhm,
I acknowledged at 14 and 15,
mhm.
I didn't know then what I know now.
Yeah.
So I can't hold 14, 15, 16-year-old Sunrise
Mhm,
responsible for that. And
mhm, mhm,
part of that was very freeing because I was in judgment. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're in judgment of ourselves
mhm.
now as
Yeah,
adults, but
yeah.
really we're in judgment of ourselves during that period of
Mhm.
time.
That's true. That's very true. Like, cause yeah, because if I want this masculine image to save me, to protect me, it's really going back to that little girl who didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
And it's
it's not like the older version of me that didn't get it. It's the younger
right.
version of me that didn't get it.
Yes.
Because the older one was able to figure out, okay, how can I stop this? How can I, this can't keep going on. Like whatever, like that I was able to stop. But it's that little girl. She
Mm.
wants to be protected. She wants to be saved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
And being able to tell her, like, she doesn't have to be responsible for that anymore is
mhm.
how we, like, start to heal. It doesn't mean that the healing, because it's a journey, like, it's forever, ever, ever, right? Because it'll always creep up. Remember we said that last week? It'll always creep up when you least expect
Yeah,
it.
it's always gonna creep up, and
It's like the boogeyman. It's the
yeah,
boogeyman. You're like,
yeah, and then like I'll watch something and I'll just start crying, or I'll talk
oh
about
yeah.
it and just start crying, and you're like, okay, can I stop this? Like I'm tired. Like I'm tired of crying every single time, but obviously her voice has not been fully heard, or she's not been fully understood, right? If she was fully
No,
understood, then I would stop crying about it.
I don't think so.
No?
No,
Yeah,
I don't think so.
that's
I
true.
think I think the sensitivity for that part of ourselves will always be there. It's just, is the crying out of like agony or pain, or is the crying just out of sheer empathy?
I think it's empathy.
Yeah, then to me, that's like, I don't ever want that type of crying to go away. And I
Mhm.
know you may be in a different space, so I don't want to assume that.
Yeah.
But for me, I know for me, there are things that I can't watch on television, or concepts, or when people talk about things, and it's not that it's not that I don't, it's not that I don't want to, it's just I know
Mhm.
I feel a sense of just hurt for people
Yeah. Yeah.
because of like what happened.
Yeah.
And so that for me, the crying is more of like always staying connected to that sensitive part of myself
Mhm.
that was hurt,
Mhm.
that I don't ever want that part of me to disappear
Yeah,
because it's
that's
what
true because that makes you compassionate and empathetic to humankind in general. Like that's what makes us beautiful in who we are because we've been through all of those struggles, so we can feel the pain. So like
Mhm.
everyone who I speak to, like I'm so curious of everyone's story because I can just understand like whatever pains you were feeling. I'm like, yes, I understand you. Like,
Oh yeah.
you know?
When I do my coaching with women, um, it's the part of me that I know is like one of the best parts of what I do, and I do well
Mhm.
because I am keenly aware and sensitive, because I know how I feel and I know what I need and what I would want someone to do for me.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times my clients usually are like, "Man, Sunrise, like how did you see that?"
Mhm.
I see it because I'm paying attention.
Mhm.
I'm seeing it because I'm listening,
Mhm.
right? So that part of me that's cries at like certain things because of what
Yeah.
happened to
And
me.
plus you have a huge instinct, instinctual thing to feel it and see it, even the unseen, where we had that conversation in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
You see
Yeah,
what you see all the things that are unseen.
I do. And it's funny because I see it and I feel it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I which is why certain things I don't watch, because I don't want to consume,
Too
because
much.
I can consume like when it gets really hard for people or whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm an empath, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like,
You'll absorb it. So you need to stop a lot of those things because that's how I am, that I realize like I'm very empathetic to a lot of things. And at some points we have to shut it off and like get back
yep,
to really nature. Nature will help cleanse
ground
your
us.
soul, ground you, all that earthing and stuff like that, being out in Mother Nature. But that is definitely needed for people like us who are very empathetic too.
Yeah, because what our empathetic, because we can feel empathy from within.
Hmm.
Going to nature, like I love the beach. I love the sun. I mean, my name is Sunrise, but my family, it was funny because not Thanksgiving, Father's Day, we're like driving and like the sunroof is open and like the sun is like beaming in on the car. And
Hmm.
my husband and the kids, they're cracking up at me. They're like, "Girl, we're dying back here." But
Well,
like,
you're probably like Dave, like you guys are solar powered, so you just
I
stay there and you just absorb the sun and the powers
am.
of it. Me, I just melt. I'm like a snowman. I'm like literally last week we went to the beach, right? So Dave stays right by the entranceway of the beach. So that's
Mhm.
like really, really hot because there's no
Yeah, yeah,
water,
yeah.
there's nothing, right? So I'm looking at he's just like enjoying himself, really relaxed. I'm like, honey, I need to go by the water. Like I'm melting, right? I need to go by the water. I need to cool off. And he's like, all right, see you. Have fun. I'm like, what? You're not gonna come? He's like, no, I'm good here. I'm good here. I mean, he was trying to figure out a kite. So he was like trying, his engineered brain was trying to figure it out. So I was like, all right. So I went to the water expecting him to come by. No, he's just happy in the sun.
Son, that sounds about right. That's me. That's me. Like my family is like, "Where's the umbrella?" They're walking to the beach. They have umbrellas, and I'm like, "Umbrella?
Yeah.
Umbrella?
Yeah. Mm-mm.
At the beach? You don't need
Yeah, no, I my skin just like it just repels it and I just start sweating.
a."
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable. Like it's uncomfortable for you, it's comfortable, and for Dave, it's comfortable. And I'm like, you don't feel it. Like I just start sweating just instantly. Like,
No, but you're the first person that said I'm going to tell my kids that I'm solar powered.
yeah, you're solar
They're going to
powered.
crack up. I'm solar powered, but it's that sun that actually helps me to externally like release the stuff that I've been holding
Yeah. And it's
from
real,
within.
and it's like it's really factual what you need from the sun to feel better, and like the chemicals
Oh
from
yeah.
it, the
Oh yeah.
grounding effects of Mother Nature, all of that are scientifically proven to help
Mhm.
you and yourself and to feel better. So you really are soul power. You have to go. You got to go to the beach. You got to get sun.
Oh yeah. The only thing that keeps me going through the fall, I say this all the time, is football and the holidays.
Hmm.
Like if those three things, I would probably be like, why do we all
Why do we live here? Can we
do this? Why
go
do we,
to, yeah,
yeah,
you need to go
that's
to like somewhere in the islands.
that's it.
Yeah.
And the holidays are less about the actual holidays and more because
The
I
people
love
gathering.
community and the people
Gathering. Hmm.
and the gathering and the connection.
Do you like the
And
themes? Do you like decorating?
I do love it. I'm good for Christmas. So I
Yeah.
do have a, like, my husband calls it my Griswold tree. I do have a
Mm,
good Griswold tree that
mhm.
like is so tall it's like scrapes the ceiling.
Yeah.
Um, but more so like I'm more the games. Let's get together, let's
Mhm.
eat together, let's
Yeah.
stay up till 2, 3 o'clock and play all the different games and laugh and
Yeah.
have cocktails and cook.
Yeah.
But that's so but besides the solar powering, it's the community that powers me too.
Yes, yes, it's
Yeah.
totally true. That's probably why I did Art and Hustle. It's all about like I would get that community feeling of all the people that would gather and the support, because you want like-minded people and you want positivity in your life. You don't want all the
Mhm.
negative things. So that it was that community of like positive people and that nurturingness that I loved,
Yeah.
which
Why do you
translates.
think so many people struggle to be honest with what they need
Mm,
to
mhm.
fulfill and sustain them?
Yeah.
Like when you think of, right, because you say you're what, 6 years old right now?
Yeah.
So before you so before you turn six, right? Before
Mhm.
40, what do you think the blockages were that stopped you from truly fully embracing and expressing those things that fueled you and powered you?
Mm. I think it was that box that I felt like I had to
Mm,
live in. That box of like I have to be like I have to listen to my husband, I have
yeah.
to be a successful, artist, I have to pay all the bills, I have to have extra money. I felt like I had to be this type of person to be, I think, accepted and loved, really,
Mm,
and really all of that stems from not having enough love for myself.
wow.
Because if I had all of that love for myself, I wouldn't give a shit about anybody else. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't need that approval from society, my family, from my husband, I wouldn't need all of those because I would be happy as a clam in my own little shell and I'll be good to go. So
Mm,
it was that society, like, because if I grew up in this world of like everything you did was wrong, whatever you think was wrong, why did you think that, why did you do that, like everything was a why, whatever you did was wrong. So you're on this hyper vigilant of like mentality of like whatever I do is wrong and whatever I do is not good enough.
yeah.
So I always felt like I always needed that outside approval of like, okay, what should I do, will this make me enough money, the prestige of it, the honor of it, following the family rules. And that's when, when my mom died, that's when, all of that just came into a headway of like, no, I don't want to die unhappy.
Mm. So
So
what would you tell our listeners, because you had like a life moment,
yeah.
right? And I believe life moments are necessary for all of us, but I do also believe, from the work that I do, that you can create life decisions, right? Even if you don't have the life moment. Like for you, the impetus was your mom passing away, and you like, it's almost like these blinders came off, these scales came off your eyes, and you were like, oh, wait a minute, Taco.
Oh, we
Oh
can't do
no,
all of
this
it.
will not be
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah.
But what if for like a listener who doesn't have necessarily a life moment right now,
Mhm.
what would you recommend that they do to kind of jolt themselves out of that box?
Yeah, because like when I was in that box for such a long period of time, it was really hard for me to get out of it. Like I have a friend who I'm trying to like coach and trying to get her to get out of her situation. And so we have daily texts, daily conversations of like, okay, what's your next step? Like, what do you need
Yeah,
to do to prepare yourself to be able to get a divorce, to be on your own? So like for
mhm,
me, I prepared myself. Like there are certain things I needed to do to
yeah,
get myself ready to jump and be able to, so like certain things I needed to do, like I needed a car. I needed to make sure that my finances were in order, that I had enough money to be able to support myself in case, like, you know, I didn't have the support I needed. I had to make sure, like, so for me, like, I had to make sure my kids were of certain age that I would be able to take care of themselves. So I would say do little steps for yourself
yeah,
because
yeah,
you can't just jump if you're not ready to jump. And when you're in this like huge, like, um situation where everything just seems so big to do to jump, like my
yeah,
friend is really is she's having a hard time taking those steps. So I'm like, just do a little bit every day. Just do one thing that will help you in the long run. Whatever it is, like even if it's going out, just grounding, go outside, whatever it is that makes you feel better, that
yeah,
feeds your soul, whatever makes you happy, just do a little
yeah,
bit every day.
a little bit of it.
Journal. If whatever it could be journaling, journal things, speaking to a friend, just do a little bit each day to feed your soul, to do what
Yeah.
makes you happy.
Yeah, I agree. And that I would have said the same thing. Just do something small.
Mhm.
Look at like the different domains of your life, like professional, relationship, health, finances, leisure. And when you look at all of those areas, many times they're all interplaying.
Mhm.
And so to your point, you're like looking at, oh my God, I have this huge box that I'm stuck in.
Mhm.
How do I get out of the box? Sometimes it helps just to break the box down into smaller
Yeah.
sections
Yeah.
and be okay picking one section and saying, what is the little thing that I can do
Mhm.
either in this area of my health? What is this little thing I can do in my finances? Because they're all interconnected,
Yes.
but you can pick them apart and do them in parts.
Yeah,
So
but it's all of those things. So you can't just have one. Like you have to do a little bit of each one. You have to move. Like you got to get your body moving because like not moving will make you depressed. Not
yes,
having friends will make you depressed. Not talking to somebody will make you depressed.
isolation.
Isolation will make you depressed because like really when you're in a situation where you're not happy in, you've isolated yourself, and
Yeah.
some people lose all of their friends in that isolation as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because their friends don't know how to help them.
Yeah. And or the husbands have isolated them from their friends. So yeah, that's what I suggest. Everyone needs to just do a little bit each day, and I'm super excited we can have these weekly conversations going forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I think we're gonna have some great conversations. And I would say any of our listeners, if they have topics that they want us to kind of tackle and discuss,
Hmm.
they could leave it in the comment section.
Yeah, we can do a
Send us a
questions and
message.
answers day, right?
Yes, I would love that to hear
Yeah,
what people are curious about, given what we've talked about and just, yeah, I think we're gonna have fun.
we
What a
are.
great way to start the summer. Yeah.
I love it. So thank you very much. And everyone who's listening, don't forget to click subscribe, like, comment, because that will help us. So thank you very much. Until next week, stay woke, right?
Yes. Hey, well, deuces, good people.
Yes. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye.
and then went into like finally getting back to me, you know, my art. All I want to do is art. And the other thing is that I love stories. So like to me, art is in everything. Your art is your voice, your speaking, your connection. You know, you can feel everyone's energy. That's your art. It's the art of living to me. So art and hustle to me is the art of living and art of it and everything.
I hope that you've cut that piece right there and make it your intro and your outro, because that was dope.